this is the next part of that where they're actually going to try and find to see if anybody swaps sides.
I guess it just doesn't really make sense to me why someone would choose to be in a miserable state for a long time.
I would just say to you, like, do you know anybody in a toxic relationship?
Fair enough, fine. But what I'm wondering is then, would you blame people who stay in toxic relationships and call them weak?
Yeah,
Yes.
absolutely.
Welcome back to Middle Ground XL. I am John, and I'm here with traditional men and progressive men. Not all issues separate into clean binaries. We want to give all of these men the opportunity to agree or disagree with the middle ground statements from the last video. And if they agree with them, they will step forward, and if they disagree, they will remain seated. Our first middle ground statement from part 1 is, should men spend their time watching porn?
No, men should not be spending their time watching porn.
I hope you're all sitting down. I also agree. No, men should not spend their time watching porn.
Thank you, guys.
That was so fun.
If you agree with that middle ground statement, come to the middle. If you disagree, remain seated. All right, so all of the men who came forward here agree that men shouldn't spend their time watching porn. And you guys are the degenerates who think you are the defenders of porn.
I have
see
the
one
advantage
mic
of already
here.
having the mic in my hand. So the thing about this is that there's this absolutist attitude about things that could be addictive that I just think is counterproductive. Also, there are measurable benefits to porn. We never talk about it, but there are lots of tangible benefits available to people through porn. Now, I'm not saying it's everybody, but I'm just saying we villainize this thing when there should be nuance.
What are the
So sociologists have found, for instance, that it can be an additive to couples discussing their desires with each other. It can also provide people context who need better understanding of what their sexual desires are. In fact, a lot of people report that the language they use to describe sexual stuff with their partner, they learned from nowhere else but porn because it wasn't available to them anywhere else. Does that make sense?
What about you? You want to?
So just sexual education is
to
what he's
attest
saying.
that, I have a personal example. So like, I don't care if I embarrass myself on front of everyone, but like, so I discovered through porn that there's an action called like sex wrestling. So you're wrestling with your partner, and then it leads to sex, and you're wrestling in a very sexual way. I don't do that like every time I have sex, but it's something that was cool that I learned through porn. Like, it's about exploring sexuality as well as like being a way for some people to vent.
So I think porn, like objectively, yeah, probably bad for your brain and things of that nature. However, there are obviously people benefiting from it, like people consensually involved. Prostitution is one of the oldest jobs in the world, if not the own. And I'm very on the, that's a strange thing because with conservatism, we want more power to our people, right? We don't want governance. So the ability for people to make their own decisions to, be in pornography. And then in terms of consuming it, yeah, like my boy said, you can't learn some shit, man. How you gonna learn how to eat a chili ring, like, properly when you're not watching porn on Munchbox, bro? You guys crazy. And then also, there is a good release. Because some of us, there's a whole spectrum of sexual desires. Some guys are cool being, Mr. One and Done. But, like, bro, if I'm not nutting, it could get crazy, bro. Who knows? You can't let all these menaces out on the street.
That's
Damn,
funny.
menace, right? Like, you gotta buzz sometimes, bro. And my imagination is not that good. And I can't draw that well.
All right, so really quick,
Can't draw
I
that
think
well.
there's traditional porn. Then I think if you have a wife, girlfriend, or something, and y'all decide to record something, come on now. Are you telling me that me and my woman can record something? See, this is what I'm talking about. We're not being out. We want to see our woman in ways, and women love it. It's a flirty way. I think a lot of you guys are talking about the outside porn. I'm talking about inside the relationship, the porn you make.
Okay. And then we're going to come to the circle. We're going to hear
That's
from
not
the
what we're
circle in a
talking about.
second.
Yeah, I guess just the first thing that came to mind, I don't know why I'm defending you guys, but I don't know how, like, we define porn, but it would seem like maybe that exists outside the bounds of commercial pornography, just like making a video with you and your wife that isn't for commercial sale. Regardless, that's not the point that I really wanted to make. What I wanted to say was more that I also really want to echo Ryan's point. Just regarding I don't think there are any clear binaries here. I think that I would be very sympathetic to everything you guys said, that if, you know, a man were to come to me and say, should I watch porn? On balance, I'd say probably not. And I think the negatives largely outweigh the positives. But I just think that humans are too vast and diverse to tell everyone what they should and shouldn't do. If you're not, you know, harming anyone, if you're not hurting anyone else, now there's arguments to be made that there's certain aspects of the porn industry that can be harmful, and maybe those could be better regulated. But I don't think that we should go around saying that these benefits don't exist, or they shouldn't be considered, or for some people that they shouldn't do that. I'd say for most people, probably not a great idea because of the unrealistic expectations and fantasies that it does create. I am completely on board with that. I have had my own experience with porn, and, you know, I if I could do it all over again, I do wish I hadn't watched it. However, I don't want to put that on to everyone. So, yeah.
I don't
Good
think
take.
there's anything,
Good take.
you know, just to speak to you right now, there's anything traditional or conservative about watching two strangers having sex online. It just seems very weird and bizarre.
You're a cuck if you do. You're a loser.
And I don't even think it's beneficial in the context of marriage, because what if that pornography gets leaked somehow and it's revenge porn now? Now whoever's involved has a much bigger problem, which is one of the problems that come from pornography. You know, I'm a Christian. I believe in traditional Christian values. I believe that it's adultery. So you're committing adultery against your wife by viewing somebody else. So I just think it largely has societal implications. Also, if it were one thing that it was going to just stay in the bedroom and maybe just you and your spouse are going to see it, maybe, but but that's largely not the porn that we're dealing with. It's everywhere. Even if you don't want to see it, you unknowingly get exposed to it.
I kind of want to ask a question to the men who are on my side of the spectrum. You talk a lot about like the benefits of porn and stuff like that, and those things might be legitimately accurate things, but do you have any gripes with like the porn industry as it exists nowadays? Yeah, with like the racism that's being exploited. Like, okay,
Everything is problematic. It's not like anything we discussed on this show is without problematicness. But yes, porn is problematic, but that doesn't rule it out as valid.
Nor is it by nature problematic, so let's not do that.
And if I can, I think I would want to clarify too that porn in and of itself isn't the issue so much as maybe a lack of regulation and responsibility placed on the business side of porn, to where there needs to be more management and oversight. Whereas porn, just by the nature of its very existence, is neutral. I understand that there can be religious connotations that may make a different analysis of that, but at the end of the day, it's still people, right? And oftentimes, especially with the porn industry, not always, there are women that are at executive positions and in the top two, but is also regulated predominantly by men. And so I think it comes back to us as men being responsible for what we're putting into the world and what we're allowing to put out there. And briefly, if I can shift for a moment, genuine question to explore your mind with this. But for example, I don't doubt that it is against the Christian faith to watch porn in whatever format that might be. But I would also be curious to know why, as a Christian, why not just make the personal decision as, hey, we as Christians are not going to watch porn, and exclusively we are against it, but whatever everybody else wants to do, fine, whatever. Yeah, so as a Christian, I would disagree with that. And it's actually, I'm glad you asked that, because I want to touch on something that I think is a little bit broader of why do we think that some things are right for everybody. And I think that's the main difference that I've noticed between the progressive arguments and the traditional arguments, is that we seem to be rooted in something objective, that it's not just right for me. If something is correct, it is correct objectively. It's correct not just for me, but for everybody. And it's something that I've noticed throughout this debate. You know, should men wear skirts? Well, I don't really know. It doesn't really matter. And should people do this? Well, it doesn't really matter. They can do what they want to do, and we can do what we want to do. And I wanted to point that out because it seems like that is the anti-social position, that you can do this and you can do that and we can do this. And I think that the traditional side is that, you know, we have to have a sense of community. We have to come to a conclusion on things that are objectively correct and things that are objectively incorrect. And pornography is one of those things. It is detrimental. And for you to just say on every subject that, well, it's nuanced and there might be some benefits and one woman might have been helped.
Like the only thing I could think of that kind of relates to that is like science, right? Like the more you test something, the more it's like correct, the more it's gonna happen. Like let's say you heat up water with fire, it's gonna evaporate. You know, that's a proven thing. Like the more you do it, you're more like, oh yeah, okay, yeah, this is definitely gonna happen if this happens. Only thing is, of course, it has to reach a certain level of heat for it to evaporate. So what he's kind of saying is traditionally, like the things that have worked kind of just like it's just should be this way because this is how it is. I think that's think that's a good relation, is what I'm trying to get at.
Hey, well, that doesn't really tell us anything. Should we watch pornography? And that was the question. Should we do it? Not, are there some nuances, or is it good for some people? Is this something that we should encourage? Is this something that we should promote for people to do?
I saw some movement. Real quick, I want to hear why he moved out.
I can't stand judgmental people, man. Y'all, what's crazy about y'all guys, y'all act like y'all never, or maybe you haven't had a woman like you enough to take her clothes off and masturbate for you, or show you a TV picture, or show you her ass picture.
Why were you in and now you're out?
Because I'm in, because Mr. Judgmental over here just shifted my, because I'm, listen, wait, no,
Okay,
hold on.
let's hear what he says.
Wait, listen, that's what I'm saying. Y'all, I cannot stand, listen, I respect what y'all are saying, but when you get judgmental, that's where it gets crazy. Y'all, if you know the game, you know women are very sexual, and women love their bodies, and women love to appreciate their bodies, and women love men who appreciate the woman who loves touching their body, especially their husbands and girlfriends. So where we're going wrong is, we're trying to say because we're not the guy to get them turned on. No, because everybody's wife played with their before, and everybody's wife has sent a video to a guy. Just because you don't know doesn't mean you're not the guy. So don't sit around. It's wrong to sit here and judge, man. It's weak. It's weak. The wife is a freak. She is. She's freaky. She loves sex.
In a normal Islamic tradition, I can speak on behalf of probably most Muslims in just this regard. It's just not permissible. It's not in our deen. Deen just means a way of something.
So bringing religion into an argument here like this is not, I don't think it's a good idea, because it's like separating church and state, right? Like, because if you talk about an argument that is, it comes to like beliefs, and and they're talking about the industry and how porn is bad for you and how you should be regulated and stuff like that. That kind of is like state stuff. And then now they're talking about religion, and that's church stuff. It's just, it doesn't mix very well, especially with the arguments. I don't like how they're bringing religion into it. Like, I think she just bring out more of a broader way of thinking, other than just saying, because I'm this religion, I can't do it. I think you got to separate that, because you can't really add. That's like two different arguments. You can't use that and argue against something that is aside from that.
Like, that's not in our deen. It wasn't around 1,400 years ago. It wasn't around 1,500 years ago. And it's just not a part of our Akida, like the way how we conduct ourselves. So,
first of all, I think fundamentally there's a disagreement that we're being judgmental from this side. I think I literally sat up there and I said, I'd done it before, right? That's not me judging. That's me saying, I have the experience of what it can do to you. It's not a good thing. If anything, I'm judging myself and saying, I engaged with it. It's not something you should do. And just because you guys think you learned how to put a Hot Wheels in your butt, that all of a sudden that's a benefit, right? Like, that's a weird example, but you guys are agreeing, I'm hearing, that there's outweighing of bad things. And there's a couple good things you could get from porn, right? But that's not what we're saying. We're saying, should you do something or not? And we're agreeing on this side that you shouldn't, because the bads outweigh the goods, even if there are goods.
Well, that's not what everybody said.
I think.
And this is the thing that I want to, Aldo and I've had beef about this before on this show. What he said that I think is reflective of what some of you feel is that because of your faith, you have an objective accuracy with your point of view. Mm-hmm. And that whether you think it should be legislated or whether you think it's just how we should have social norms, one of the problems that I have and that some of us have with all of this is that you think that you believe, and I get it's part of your faith, you believe you're morally superior and your judgments thereupon are superior to ours, but that is a bullshit reason to make a mandate for other people. And nobody's saying like a lot of.
And this is why you separate church and state, and that's why you can't put this argument is going bad.
You guys have repeated what we've said inaccurately in furtherance of that. So I just want to be clear, nobody here is the authority on this, but you guys have got to stop discrediting our points just because your faith backs you up.
The really quick point I wanted to make is just, I'm here because they said we should spend our time watching porn. Like, how do you spend your time?
Right. Not porn.
Well, yeah, it's like I spend my time walking the dog and doing the dishes, and I volunteer at an animal rescue. And to me, when you say spending your time watching porn, that just implies a level of time commitment that I don't think is quite
That's a good point he's made. It's a funny point. It's like should not spend their time watching porn, but then like obviously people don't just spend their time doing that. Like if you spend your time doing it, you're probably an addict or something. You're probably like a sex addict. You're probably, that's pretty much what he's getting at. And I see the point of view, because why else would you say spend your time watching porn? That's like an exaggeration of what people do.
Good. Let me address something. So you mentioned that as long as it pertains to you, as long as you're not bothering the other person,
Right, Hex?
you can do whatever you want, right? Did I?
I said something about like harm-related things. If you're not harming another person, there's a reason is to not, ban someone from doing something. There's a high bar.
Porn harms you. It harms your relationship. There's statistical data. Whatever data you guys mentioned, there's more data that backs our side up.
What the data actually suggests is that the #1 predictor in someone having like problems with, like, for example, their relationships or interpersonal problems with porn is moral incongruence. So it may be more statistically likely for someone like you.
Let me read this real quick. Moral incongruence, when someone's behavior does not align with their values, can lead those who watch porn to have greater stress related to watching it and higher reports of perceived addiction.
A religious person or a traditional person to have an issue with porn, but it's actually the case that people who have more liberal views with that may not be as more likely to have issues with it. Now, I am standing over here because I think that, like, as Greg, I think, mentioned, I don't think that it's something that we should be spending our time doing in the same way. I don't think that we should be spending our time eating junk food, etc.
Yeah.
But
I see that point.
it's a balance of a literal sense versus maybe an interpretive sense. I don't think that it is as black and white. And on the point of religiosity, some of the highest consumption rates per capita for porn usage are places where porn is in fact banned.
We're all men here. We're debating porn. I want everybody reach into your heart of hearts and be as honest as you can. Have you watched porn in the last 30 days? Raise your hand if it's yes.
All right, go higher. Now go higher.
And,
All right. My lady sent me a nice video.
Thank you, guys. Okay, let's reset.
All right. That was
Moving
good.
on
I like
to
that.
our
A
next
good
middle ground
conclusion there.
statement. In part 1, the question was, are depressed men weak?
Oof,
and
this
the
is a rough
agreed
one.
upon middle ground statement was,
I guess men who are depressed should seek treatment.
Men should seek treatment.
Awesome.
Agreed.
so if you agree with that middle ground statement, come to the middle. If you disagree, stay seated.
Yeah, so I definitely agreed with the prompt.
100%.
that
Dang.
Depressed men are weak. I say that as someone who was diagnosed with clinical depression and anxiety disorder, actually, too, brought on by being a cancer survivor. And it's not, depression is absolutely real, and you can't control when it happens to you. It just does. It could be for any reason. A disease, it could be because a loved one passed away, so on and so forth. But it absolutely is a choice to stay depressed and therefore to choose to stay weak. Again, that's not to say that you can't seek help, which I did. I went to a therapist. I had a social worker. I did what I needed to do to get better and come out on top. And I'm all the more strong for it.
I mean, I guess I just want to respond to that quickly. As the one who was there for that prompt. I mean, I guess first off, I think it's important to distinguish the difference between the literal meaning of that. Depressed men are weak, I guess, in a weaker mental state because of their illness. Sure.
Right before he says something, I'm pretty sure he's gonna try and separate the two. Where I do agree with the red dude, right? Yeah, but blue guy's gonna go like, well, you can't separate the definition of depression versus something that you can change. And he's probably going to say something like that you can't change depression.
Fine, in no pejorative sense, or if we're not attaching anything onto it, in complete agreement. Outside of that, I do think that is a harmful idea, and I want to speak a little bit to something that you said specifically regarding the idea that depression is a choice. I guess it just doesn't really make sense to me why someone would choose to be in a miserable state for a long.
Look at that. He's saying it's something you can't control, and what red guy just said and proven to everybody else was that he did something that changed what, like, pretty much in his control. He chose to do something to get him out of it.
Long time. Like it doesn't make sense to me. It's the same like that.
It's a choice because it doesn't have to define you.
What?
And You said something earlier about the rhetoric, that it's harmful, but being presented with reality is what allows you to face it and do what you got to do to manage it and move forward.
And I would agree with you.
Since we're talking about treatment, you know, we're saying everybody here says men should seek treatment if they are depressed.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
What was treatment like for you? What was that?
It was hard at first, you know, having to talk with a therapist, having to meet with the social worker weekly. But over time, it helped a lot and it got better and better. And that was an active choice that I made to no longer allow depression to affect me. So it absolutely is a choice.
Well, I wanted to ask a question to you. You said, like, why would people you know, stay very unhappy? Why would they choose to stay unhappy? And I would just say to you, like, do you know anybody in a toxic relationship? Like, why would people stay in one of those relationships? And there's a lot of different reasons, but, you know, for you to say that you don't know why people would do that.
Fair enough. Fine. But what I'm wondering is then, would you blame people who stay in toxic relationships and call them weak?
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I find fair, and I think that is a harmful rhetorical statement to make that demonizes people within those relationships as if they are either primarily at fault for the situation that they are in. I agree that everyone has some sort of personal responsibility.
He said primary at fault, and yeah, they're probably not. They're not the primary at fault, right? But it's still. I think he's like trying to find a way around it. He definitely has like really strong feelings about this, but I can't agree with them when it comes to this.
Responsibility for the situation that they exist in, and if people are depressed, they do have a responsibility to do so. But I don't think we should primarily reduce it to a lack of will.
I don't
it's
think
not a lack
anyone
of will.
So, I think. Does anyone else work in mental health? Kind of. No. Currently, I'm undergoing my MFT program to become a licensed marriage family therapist right now. So I already work with people who have mental health issues. I already work as a caseworker, social worker, whatever you want to call it. And I won't push back on mental health as as it exists. If you're depressed, it's a weakened state of mind, like we said before, right? But I do want to push back on the idea that seeking treatment's easy, as someone who works in there.
Yeah.
As you guys were saying, that like getting over that first hurdle.
It's temporary. It's not permanent.
Yeah.
That's something that I would always tell myself. Me being homeless, sleeping underneath an MMA cage, getting ready to train the next day.
And
it's temporary. Yeah. It's not permanent.
And I have clients who have been homeless for 20 plus years, and just seeing how that 20 plus years of them pushing back treatment, pushing their time to get help, has ultimately jaded them to the idea of even seeking help in the first place. But a lot of that comes from those original ideas that mental health isn't real, or that, you know, that their depression wasn't real.
All right, so let's hear from some of the men.
Oh, that's a really, really good point. Because not even knowing it's there because you believe it isn't there, meaning it isn't there for you because you already don't believe that it's there. That I never even thought of that. I'm glad White Hat guy stepped in with that. Yeah, he did a good job with that.
Who are still seated? Why aren't you coming in for the middle ground prompt?
Yeah, so as a mental health professional, obviously, like, it's not like I don't care, and I don't think that, like, people should just do nothing, you know, if they're depressed. I think the reason why I didn't step forward was because I feel like maybe I took the prompt a little bit, like, literally. So, like, I don't think every patient that is depressed needs to necessarily, like, be hospitalized. I guess maybe that's how I took it. It could look like outpatient treatment, or maybe, like, there's other things you can do. Like, I know for me, if I'm really anxious, like, spending time with friends helps. The I Am Affirmations app, like, that really grounds me. And practicing mindfulness and, like, going to the beach or, like, shopping or... So I feel like...
I want to reread the prompt for you. Men who are depressed should seek treatment. Do you not agree with that?
I'm saying that some people might hear that and think, oh, they need to be hospitalized. And I'm saying treatment doesn't have to be hospitalization. It can look a lot of different ways.
Right,
So
but
that's
if
why-
we broaden that interpretation of treatment,
he
are
should
you
be
in
up
the
there.
circle?
Probably, yeah.
Okay. Come on in.
Like, why isn't he up there?
Okay.
And I kind of want to say something.
All right, let's hear from somebody inside.
Yeah, I mean,
I just kind of like want to respond to that a little bit because I actually used to agree with that. And there was a time in my life where I was like incredibly, incredibly depressed, and also just so happens to be the time when I was the most addicted to porn. But that's neither here nor there. But for the longest time, I thought that I could just like fight it myself, kind of like, alpha male kind of vibes, just overcome, kind of like stoicism type thing. Like I was really weakened in my faith at the time, so I didn't even feel like God could even help me because it was just so bad, and I was just like so depressed and so lost. Growing up, even as a evangelical Christian, is like therapy was kind of like stigmatized a little bit. It's just like talking to therapists is that shows like a sign of weakness, and I was like, well, I'm a man. Well, I mean, I can't really show that side of weakness, but I'm just saying, when I was at kind of the lowest of low in my life, I almost wish that, like going back now, I would have seen like a Christian therapist or something like much sooner, because it is like, especially like with the porn thing and just being depressed, it's just like, it's really hard to come out of that yourself. Like you need community, you need people. And so I was actually in that side as I was going through that. But now that I'm out of it and kind of on the other side, I kind of understand why it's such like a big thing.
Real quick, as a dating relationship coach, what I do with my guys, the problem is
dating relationship
y'all can laugh
coach.
all you want. You ain't got no game like I have. Laugh all you want. But anyway, as I was saying, was the problem is why depression is soft, because everybody can't be a man, and everybody has to be a grassy and lying sometimes, is because most of these guys, they're not honest. Again, if you're depressed over something outside of relationships, I'm just talking about those, they were talking about relationships. A lot of these guys set expectations for women, and they have a lot of emotions and femininity, and they get all soft, and women don't like soft people. They like aggressive, dominant men who tell women what to do, not in a dictatorship way. But when you're soft you're weak and you set an expectation for women, and then they say no to you, and then you all soft and broken-hearted, people don't like, excuse my language, a man who has a tighter than a woman. They won't respect those.
So are you saying, if you're seeking help with your depression, that makes you soft?
Well, yeah, if you're okay, then here's the thing is, you're not being honest with yourself, because you can go to therapy and sit there and have a guy say, how does that make you feel? Or you can look in the mirror and take this thing called accountability and sit there and say that, you know what, I'm the reason I'm depressed.
But them going to the therapist is already accountability, and I don't think he sees that. It's like he's a little too, I don't know, is arrogant the right word? Ignorant, arrogant? Where you can't even see, like past, like the other thing isn't even an option. Like it's not even there. Like he doesn't even believe it's there.
It's not her fault. We can't sit around and point the finger at everybody else. We've got to start looking at ourselves as men and not bunny rabbits, and sit around here and saying, oh, the sky's falling because a girl doesn't like me, or I got to go to the gym because a girl doesn't like me.
There was a lot there that I'm going to try my best to speak to. The first one, the reason why I wanted to speak to it is because I'm a black man. And growing up in black culture,
Look at that reaction.
I'm going to say a lot of us, not all, but I would say a lot of black men are taught to bottle up your feelings inside, not to cry, not to show women any emotion at all. And I would say a lot of men are taught that as well. From a toxic masculine perspective, we're taught, do not show any emotion because it is a sign of weakness. But even in the Bible, Joseph went behind closed doors to cry. And then he came out and he dealt with his business, right? So regarding to the things that he just said, treatment can mean a ton of different things. It could be, I'm going to call my wife up and seek counsel from her. I'm going to call my friends up. It could be going to the gym. It could be going for a run. It could mean a whole bunch of different things.
That's
it could
a really
be
good
going
point
to
right
a
there.
therapist. Treatment can mean so many different things, as opposed to bottle up your feelings inside, don't show any emotion, and then all of a sudden it explodes. And then that's the worst alternative. So I just disagree with what he said, because it feels like this counterintuitive process to actually what therapy is supposed to do, and that can mean a whole different ton of things in treatment.
Well, my contention is kind of more so like a little bit too self-obsessed in a way, just for lack of a better word. Like it's too inward looking, and I feel like a man's role is to be more so outward looking, out in the world, taking care of business in the world. It's sort of analogous to I'm sure some of the red would agree. It would be analogous to like the woman taking care of like the private home life, and then the man taking care of like the world. And it's sort of like that way we're kind of like looking in a little bit too much a lot of it seems like it is genuine trauma, but then there's also a lot of it that is like people from like they take slights from childhood and they exaggerate them to a certain level to where they become a little bit too obsessed. And I don't think you need some like psychiatrists that read a few books to tell you that you just need to be more self-reliant. You need to talk to yourself a little bit nicer and stuff like that.
Just to respond,
listening to him was so hard. He needs some like coaching on speaking or something, like communicating something. That was kind of hard to listen to. I wasn't like keeping up.
what both of you said. So depression doesn't come because you're focused on certain slights. For the most part, it's due to a chemical imbalance in the brain, or it's a result of trauma. Hang up. I gave you a bunch of time to speak after I interrupted you at first. But
hold on. I like this guy. I actually like this blue dude. Let me read the fact check real quick. According to the Cleveland Clinic, researchers don't know the exact cause of depression, but contributing factors include brain chemistry, chemical imbalance, genetic suppressed medical conditions, and medications. The one thing that they do mention is this is the chemical imbalance, and that's something that can't be controlled, right? You have to actually seek help for that. And that's the one exception that, you have to go and get help. Like you can't, it's not something you can deal with yourself at all. At least I don't think so.
A bunch of time to speak. Now it's my turn. So what you're applying is you're saying it's not a chemical imbalance, it's not due to trauma and not being properly treated, it's just because you're looking into yourself. What that's doing to someone who already has depression is actually making them more depressed. You're not offering them a solution, you're not offering them any sort of treatment. You're actually making them more sick with what they have. Now I understand that you can shake your head all you want, brother, but listen, this is this. Brother, you're a pickup artist. No. Eat my. Oh, you loser! Shut! No! You don't get to stand there. Don't. No.
Hey.
Come, put the chairs away.
Hey.
No, I don't.
I think it's fair. For him.
It's not. You don't get to stand
It ain't heated.
Otherwise, there'll be a problem.
Yeah.
What are you gonna do?
Hey, this is
Hey, quiet.
Be respectful. Be respectful.
Don't walk in.
I didn't lose my cool.
walk
I didn't
in.
lose my cool. Hey, this is what I'm saying. Nah. This is what I'm saying.
Hey, look.
You was disrespectful.
And then we're
Eat your
done.
Bro, hey, I'm gonna tell you right now. What time we out of here? We gonna find out.
No.
We gonna find out.
Hey,
oh,
no,
okay.
we can't
And then you gonna call the police.
Hey, we
and
gotta be done. Hey, man, we gotta be done.
You gonna call the police, right?
We're gonna.
I'm trying to tell you. I'm trying to tell you.
Hey, man, we're gonna have to ask you to leave.
I'm gonna tell you. No, ask him to leave.
I'm gonna talk to him next.
Bro.
I'm gonna talk to him next.
I was disrespectful.
I'm gonna talk to him, but this isn't helping.
Hey, let me just say, I apologize for being disrespectful.
You need to pause it.
And I apologize. I should have shown more respect. And to you, I apologize. I'm sorry, that was not in the spirit of what we're doing here. And I'm sorry.
And I'm sorry too, man. Because ultimately, I don't want to be. I thought we're all human beings. I respect everybody, man. I just want to be respected too. This is like my brother here, man.
Hey, guys, come over here. Can you come here for a second? John, can you come here for a second? Are we comfortable? Everybody quiet.
See, this takes real mature people
Everybody
to do this.
quiet on set.
There we go.
I apologize. Sorry, John.
Everybody take a deep breath, and then let's focus on what we're disagreeing on. Let's focus on the issues.
So I disagreed with the prompt because I don't think we should seek pharmaceutical treatment because I'm against pharmaceuticals. We're just going to ruffle some feathers, but I don't believe in depression as a mental illness or a mental disorder. I believe in it as an experience that is caused by external factors that are in your control. And if you guys say, oh, he's bullshitting, I have a bachelor's in psych, a master's in counseling, I decided to not do the therapy path because I didn't believe in those practices. So for anyone that's experiencing this, it's all external factors. And I'll ask you guys this, whoever believes in pharmaceuticals.
The only thing is I like, if the chemical imbalance thing wasn't a thing, I would agree. But just because it is, some people are just born differently. You can't say that it's all external factors.
For the chemical imbalance that's been proven wrong for 30 years, did you ever get tested for your chemical imbalance before you were prescribed pharmaceutical drugs? The answer is no. You did not get an fMRI. You did not get a urine test or a blood test that tests serotonin. You did not do a PET scan that does the to monitor the serotonin within your brain. So I'm just letting you guys know these are pushed on as a way for Big Pharma to push that depression is real. And I just
see his
believe it's an
point, though.
experience that everyone will experience differently, but it's not something that you can't control. And also, if you don't believe in it, how can it be real? If I don't believe in it, because you can't objectively measure it.
Yeah.
It's a psychiatric opinion, and it's a doctor's opinion, and there's no objective way to measure it.
What would you? He's saying if you don't believe in it, then it's not real. And I see that point because earlier, even with the other dude, the red guy that was super arrogant or ignorant, whatever the word is, like if you just don't see it, then it's not there. It's like you can't convince a dumb person that you're smart because they just can't see as far as you do.
You say to a man though who is in a subjectively in a state of depression, if not seeking treatment.
Oh, I said I'm fine with seeking treatment, just not pharmaceuticals. I'm against
Gotcha. So you're
pharmaceuticals.
pro
your
treatment
first
as
your
long as
first thing for anything, if you're feeling depressed, is you do the 5 components of your physical health: your diet, exercise, sun intake, hydration, and sleep. Those are your first 4. Then you could go to spirituality,
still
go to
treatment,
accountability
though.
routine. You could fix your social connections, but you don't need a drug to tell you to alter your brain.
Yeah,
to
go
tell
up
you
there,
you have a
dude.
disease that's not objectively measured.
I just want to respond really quickly to the guys over here. So the reason I got up is because I was sitting down is because it said seek help. It didn't specify how help. I agree with you. If you're feeling depressed, internally look, deal with it yourself, get up, I'm a Christian, and turn to Christ, turn to God, deal with it myself, get back up and do it. That's help. I mean, it's not pharmaceutical help. I completely agree with what Steve said about strength and being an accountable man. I completely agree with what was said over here. I just think that the reason I stood up was because I see help in many different ways. I acknowledge it. I'm not at my best right now. Let me get at my best. Let me do what I have to do. Let me speak to God, speak to my family, that kind of thing.
Just very quickly, I second that, by the way. I just wanted to say that as men, we should be uplifting and helping and inspiring each other. When it comes to depression, whether you believe it's your fault or not, whether you believe it's real or not, whether you believe it's a disease or not, it does affect people, and we see what happens. The ramification of it is suicide. Taking your own life. I can speak to that personally as well. I did attempt to take my own life 3 times, and the reason why I mention it is just because 80% of men make up the suicide rates, which is 5 times that of women, and it's due to depression and primarily loneliness. And so I think if men reached out to other men, a lot less of that would be happening.
I think like as far as you go.
That's a really good point too, because loneliness, right? Because what did they talk about earlier? They talked about how men like don't even think that it's available. They're like, how much access do you have to help? And if you seek out help, then you're weak. So it's like that's why it's like so bad for men.
I largely, especially working in the field now, I largely agree that overall, I think there's a lot of different ways for treatment. It's not just pharmaceuticals, it's not just therapy for somebody. But I think at the end of the day, there are some people who do need pharmaceuticals, specifically those with a drug-induced schizophrenia. Being in the field, I don't know if you worked in the public sphere as well. That's something I see a lot every day. And those people without their medications can't function at all. Overall, I think that there has become an over-reliance on medications within the mental health field. But I think that's a symptom of the idea that mental health is something that is as treatable as a cold. It's something that can be just wiped away with a couple of pills. Whereas I think it does matter what your group is. It does matter, who you hang out with. It does matter what you think about yourself overall. Like that's kind of the main idea with depression too.
I mean, I think the over reliance on pills is also a symptom of the pharmaceutical industry and their lobbying towards giving more and more patients more and more to the bottom line. But the reason I switch, because everyone seems to be inviting people back in every time they say they like this version of treatment, but that version of treatment. The reason I sat down after the first doctor talked was essentially because I fundamentally have always kind of had this belief that you treat mental health the way you treat physical health, in the sense that if you break your leg, go to the goddamn hospital. But if when you fell, you just scraped your knee, stand up, suck it up and keep moving. So it's that's why it's not always like, oh, does this need a treatment protocol for more vitamin D by going for a 10-minute grounding walk barefoot? No, we don't need to systematize everything. Just like for the smaller stuff, just be normal and like push yourself to be a better version of yourself.
I think that's kind of a bad example because they're talking about depression, which is way past like sadness. And what he's talking about is like, oh, you scraped your knee, that's sad. You know, get up and deal with it. And it's not, oh, you broke your leg. That's just pretty depressing, dude. It's not. It's a different level, and we're talking about depression, not sadness.
And that'll resolve most of it.
I think what you are touching on here is the fact that there are different levels of severity with depression.
Sure.
Right? Like have you heard of treatment-resistant depression?
I mean,
it's what it sounds. Basically, is what it sounds like. You know,
yeah,
the treatments don't really work, and there are a lot of, you know, I'm not in the health field, but there are a lot of physical measures of depression. Depression is a physical illness. You have reduced hippocampal volume. That's part of your brain. You have differences in your serotonin, your dopamine, your
fair, you got
norepinephrine.
notes.
Your cortisol goes up. Your inflammatory markers go up. You can see differences in the electrical connectivity in your brain. Depression might not even present the same way, right? Like it could be episodic. So I think that we're having kind of a reductionist conversation where a lot of people are thinking about their personal experiences and they are taking their personal experiences and using that to infer what should be done. Whereas, like, for example, I cut my finger the other day. I drove myself to the urgent care and I got it stitched up. If it had been a less bad cut, I would have slapped a Band-Aid on it. If I had shot my arm off, I'm not driving, right? Exactly. So I think that a lot of this depends on factors that we're not considering, and I think that's just something that is an important context to add to this conversation.
Hey, before we go any further, we want to take a moment to say mistrust. Plus, the work that by click straight arrow.
Middle ground statement was,
if a man is failing in his leadership role, then a woman should be able to step up.
Yeah, I agree with that. A woman should be able to step up if her man is failing as a leader.
All right.
All right.
I specifically remember myself saying in this prompt that if a man isn't leading, if the man's not doing what he's supposed to be doing, like let's say he's just a bad dude, the girl's gonna leave him. It doesn't make any sense for her not to leave him or to try and bring him up herself. Like that's the only two options: either help him become better or leave him.
Okay. Appreciate you, man.
Appreciate you, man. It's been a pleasure.
you know, if you agree, go in.
Wait.
Why
is nobody
I'll start
standing
with a
up?
personal anecdote. My family, we try to be traditional. We're a Roman Catholic household, and the reason I say that the woman should stand up if the man is failing is because that's something that I saw in my childhood and in my family. You know, my dad is the leader of our household. He always has been, and he was the breadwinner for my childhood. And in a single year, he lost his business, had a heart attack, and his father died, which he started his business with. And that was a bad time in our childhood. In our family life. They hid it from us kids growing up, and we had a great childhood, so that's great. But I look back at my mom, who stuck with my dad through that. She went back to work. She was a stay-at-home mom her entire life, and she stuck with him. And she went back to work, and she got him through that. And the entire time, she always looked at my dad with loving eyes, always looked at him as the leader, always saw him as the man of the house, but she stuck with him. And as a kid, being able to see that relationship, see that marriage, that was something really important, and I think something kind of unique nowadays that I got to see that. And especially in a Christian household, that's something that we believe, that you get married and you are together for life. And especially nowadays, I see a lot of relationships like that, or even a lot more minor things, that those relationships wouldn't last. And so while I know a lot of guys on this side might be thinking, well, if the man isn't, you know, sticking up to it, then that woman should find a new man. I understand maybe some of what you guys are thinking, and you'll tell me in a second, but that's something I thought about for my own life, and I think that's something that we should all want in a relationship.
Let's hear from someone else here.
All right,
You're standing by your statement.
Joining in.
I guess I'm not too sure what my progressive brethren are going to say up here. I guess I do understand that maybe the prompt says something, or the middle ground statement says something that may be misinterpreted, at least maybe I'm misinterpreting it. The way that I view if a man is failing, then the woman should step up, isn't necessarily like if a man is failing, it is your responsibility to fix it to the woman. More so that it shouldn't just be that a man should be able to tell a woman, no, I'm still going to keep doing what I'm doing, and you do not have a say in this because I'm the man. I believe that it's a partnership. I think 100% no matter what's happening in the relationship, as long as you're both working together and you're both trying to make sure that you have a successful life together and a successful life for your family, then that's all that matters, regardless of the leadership roles. Not necessarily that one person needs to lead or the other person needs to lead. More so, we all just need to work together because that's what we got married to do and that's what we agreed to do because that's what the partnership is.
Let's hear from.
I'll take this.
Oh,
one
you're coming in
to start off with, if you don't mind.
All
The
right.
reason why I cannot join you all typically in the middle is because I'm gay.
Yeah.
So that whole entire argument
Yeah.
is completely has a wrecking ball because how I view relationships from a homosexual male to male, when I mean relationship, it's more of a partnership. Now, yes, I've had great, experiences where my mom and dad have been together for over 40 years and they love each other. And I've seen where my dad has taken the blow and my mom has had to step up. But that doesn't apply to my circumstance because as a gay man, sometimes it's 50-50, sometimes it's 30-70. It just depends and it's not cut and dry.
Yeah, so I think that we're still
think he
sitting
goes up
here
there.
because that middle ground basically affirms the initial question that men should lead. But if he can't lead, that's when the woman. So that implies then that men should lead. So that's most of us take an egalitarian view that it's like a partnership.
I see
So
that.
that's why we're still here because
The
women
implementation.
should lead only if
Implication.
the man can. You know what I mean? So that's kind of the caveat right there.
I struggled with that as well. I came over here. What was your name again? Sorry. Kino. Yeah, Kino got me over here because I was, a lot of this for me, I've been struggling with how literally to take all these prompts. And the way he described it, I do agree with his framing. I do agree as well that, we shouldn't assume that one gender is taking the leading role. I do think a good part of an interdependent relationship is if one person is in a role, whatever that role is, or whatever those roles are, and they hit a speed bump, the other person kind of steps in. I'm married. I've been married for
I like
10
that.
years.
I like
I'm
that.
gay, so I also relate to my fellow gay man's confusion about some of these things. But there's been times where, I have really struggled and my husband has stepped up and vice versa. So in that framing of the prompt, I agree, and that's why I came over here. But I do agree that some of the implications are uncomfortable if you look at it a certain way.
The reason why I'm sitting over here is because I think that no matter what adversities we face, like being someone that's married close to 20 years, sure, it's okay to have those moments, but it's not my wife's duty to step up. It's maybe, her duty in a relationship to remind me that like, hey, I understand you're going through something, hey, you just got fired, or hey, you're going through something tough. It's good to hear her kind of be like, hey, don't worry, like I'm here, but it's not her job now to be like, all right, it's time for me to step up and like start making more money because you're making less money. It's never okay because it also creates like this continuous back and forth of maybe even creating like a dependence on my wife. I'm like, oh, it's okay to be weak or it's okay to.
That makes it, that sounds so insecure. It's like he can't depend on himself to keep himself up or fight back if he becomes too weak or something. That's a horrible argument. Like, it really is a partnership. Like, obviously, a good wife or a good husband will step in and cover for what you can't provide at the moment, right? Like, if I lose my job, then it's like, well, someone's got to pay the bills, right? Someone's got to. Or like, if she's pregnant and and the kid's coming, I'm not gonna let her take care of herself. I'm gonna help take care of her. It's not. His argument is really bad.
Fail in my traditional roles as a man because my wife's got me anyway, and so I think that'll build like a tolerance in my head of like, oh, it's okay to, be weak 6 months of the year, or, oh, the next time we face adversity, it's just best I just, I can just kind of kick back because my wife's going to step up. And I think that sends a message to her that like, to this day, praise God, there's never been a time where she's looked at me and she's like, wow, like what's wrong with this? Why aren't you fighting for us, for this family, for our home, for our children.
Can I go quick? I think the reason I'm not in this circle is you're never going to win me over on this idea that relationships should fundamentally be structured by one person leading another. I don't. That is not the way my brain comports.
Agreed.
You know, you can talk to me all day about it until you're blue in the face. I fundamentally do think it should be a partnership between two people. And what you said over here, this idea of, oh, you know, I can't be weak around my wife if I'm vulnerable with her, or if I, you know, disclose to her what's going on, or however you want to frame it. Like, I think that's so harmful, because for me, my partner should be the person who I'm most comfortable being my vulnerable self with. And if I can't be that myself with that person, I'm not going to be with that person. And I think like this idea that you just always have to tough it out no matter what leads to people just spinning their wheels. The problems often don't get better. They just get worse because people can't lean on the people in their life that they are designed to be able to lean on. So I think this whole idea that if you're ever going to put the word lead in a relationship that isn't through a corn maze, I am not going to agree with that type of statement.
Yeah, I think that's pretty crazy.
Can I just respond real quick? Just because you really like talked to me real quick. I'm not saying you can't be reliable. I have other sources that I go to. So I have people that I go to. Like if I'm, you know, if I'm, you know, I have a brother that I have a great relationship. I have people at church. I have a men's group as well. I go to them because they're more experienced as male leaders that believe in the same things. Of course, I'm not going to win you over, but that's why you're on that side and you're wearing blue.
Okay, fair enough.
But let's just move past that disagreement.
We all talk about like how it's
that's actually not a bad point. Like, cause he's not saying he's just gonna tough it out himself. He's actually like looking for that help and advice from other guys. So he's not like totally lost. He knows there are things that you have to kind of just do to keep yourself up.
It's supposed to be a partnership, and the reason I am here is because a partnership also, I know you're gonna hate this, but delineating in a business sense, a partnership has different responsibilities. It has people who are best at certain things. When it comes to even depictions of Hindu deities, there's one famous depiction where the body is physically split in half, one side man, one side female. Because here's the thing, leadership is a, can I swear, shitty job. Leadership is a shitty job, and it's a menial job. What do women have? Women have the power to give birth, create life, to generate and guide the next generation. That is a far more useful purpose of like basically being like the Marie Curie and like guiding the growth of a nation, rather than, oh, I've got to figure out what we're doing for like checks and balances in our house.
Is that leading? What do women do in that sense? Is that leading? Because
they're creating.
But you're putting what men do in this category of leadership. Men lead. What women do, that's not leadership.
Listen, people have been throwing rhetorical versus literal all day today to an annoying sense. Literally, leadership just means to lead for like making a decision. Now, anyone that's here that's married, I'm not married, but anyone here that's married, no one's taking a decision like in a vacuum without their partner. That's the quickest way to divorce. They're all taking into consideration. So the word leadership, because of all like the toxic masculinity, red pill bullshit on YouTube, sounds bad to people's ears these days. But a man's job is to create order. A woman's job is to create the universe. Let him figure out the basic bullshit. Let her build the destiny.
You're still giving him the final say. Why?
No, who has the final say?
Leader.
No.
Okay. Blue guy is kind of annoying for sure. He's very, very strong on this, but I like red guy's point. Let me just go back a little bit.
Order. A woman's job is to create the word leadership, because of all like the toxic masculinity, red pill bullshit on YouTube, sounds bad to people's ears these days. But a man's job is to create order. A woman's job is to create the universe. Let him figure out the basic bullshit.
I see a hand.
So like, blue guy is just really worried about the leadership title. Cause why is he so triggered on that? Cause even red guy said that together you make the relationship, or else, you know, it leads to divorce. And that's a really good point. Like if it wasn't a consensual relationship, that's not a relationship. I think blue guy is just totally going over his head, because he's trying to like categorize it in different ways to where he can prove his point.
Consult me. My wife can talk with me about it, but ultimately it's up to me. I heard somewhere
So
over
some
there.
people, but those.
Hey guys, Shane here. I had a quick question because it's kind of interesting, because I'm kind of held up on the word should. It's interesting to see a lot of traditional men actually up there and not the progressive men.
I was thinking that same thing.
I mean, most people would typically think most progressive men would be up there. So for me, I'm looking at it as like, that word should is a hang up for me, because I think that that also provides a space for men to not take accountability for their lacking or whatever they're not showing up in that relationship to support, etc., with their partner. I also, I've been with my wife, married 10 years, 20 years we've been together. So I have extensive experience of how women work. And there's this idea of being so gendered, but when you've been together long enough, you realize the gender roles fall apart. If one person is making more money and the other person isn't, I don't think it's a question of should, it's just the opportunity there. And I think that women should have the opportunity if they wanted to step up. I think that's important. But I also think that there's a lack of accountability, especially on the traditional side. It's just interesting to see so many of you guys up there, because usually with all the other points, it seems like, I want to be gung-ho, I want to show up, but it's like, it's that should for me that I'm really hung up on, because I think that the opportunity for women to show up, also that lack of accountability, I'm stuck on that, because it doesn't make sense to me.
So like for me personally, right? Like I'll share my personal experience, right? There was a time where my wife was making more than me at that point in time, right? And I wanted her to show me a certain amount of respect. And she kept it a band with me. She went like, dude, I work longer hours than you and I make more money than you. She's not wrong. So what ended up happening is me as a man, I rose to the occasion. I was like, yo, I want her to do X, Y, and Z when I tell her to do it, how I tell her to do it, exactly when I want her to do it. She told me she's willing to sign up for that, but I need to do my part now and pull the weight that she wants me to pull. For me, if you want that kind of power, because not even power, if you want that level of responsibility, you need to be able to carry that burden, because she can't follow you if you don't even have a roadmap for yourself. What is she gonna follow? What is she gonna submit to? Poverty? Section 8 housing? Food stamps? Like, nah, bruh. Like, no. That isn't what a woman should submit to. You should be solid through and through.
Basically, it sounds like it's like a scales thing, right? Like, if she wants a lot and you're making okay, you're not up to her standard. So, and she said, if you want to be the leader or the man in a relationship, you better be making a lot. So she doesn't have to do all that much, so she can do all these other things that you want her to do. So that's just like an equality thing. You just balance it out and then you find your equal middle ground.
If you want to be treated like you solid, act like you solid. Walk the walk and talk the talk.
When I see men talking about, I'm going to come in and be this traditional man and take care of the finances, yet now there's this stipulation of like, well, actually, if I'm not doing my job, you got to show up. And I think for traditional women, I don't see trad wives actually. I see them going, hey, let's get another man.
Really?
That's typically what happens with traditional women that are looking at their men and going, hey, you're not providing for me. I mean, if that's the mindset that the two consenting adults agree to have, that, hey, I want to...
That's another debate in itself. He's saying traditional women will just find another man that can do better. I don't think that's traditional woman. I think that's more of a feminist woman. I guess you could say some boss girls do that, but I think it's more like feminine power women type girls. And that's what he's getting at. But I don't think that specifically, I don't think specifically trad women fall into that category.
Traditional marriage, I want to stay home, I want to raise the kids. If the man's not making the money, then, I mean, just from your perspective, it sounds like you're more of a progressive relationship by looking at it that way, because it's like you're actually providing an opportunity for women to work, make income, and support, which seems more of a progressive relationship than a traditional one.
Right. So I totally not about the accountability. And like Anthony said, I think when you're saying it creates a space for men to not take accountability, totally not talking about that. Right. And I think there is also a view that trad wives, they don't do any hard work. They just
No, I'm not saying they didn't do any hard work, but there's an expectation that the financial side is taken care of, because that's the male's role to go out in the world. So it's confusing to me as a progressive listening to someone who's claiming to be traditional when it really sounds extremely progressive for you to be like, I mean, even the gentleman over here was like, hey, I have my wife and she works from home. I mean, that's not technically then traditional if she's working. I mean, if we're just going on the baseline of what a trad wife is, when we see trad wife content, we see baking, babies, we see
all that stuff is just pornography
beyond the financial.
Hello. It's made.
I mean, he's saying that in a way to where it's like it's just a fantasy that can actually never be reached, because generally, both people in the relationship are working. He's just saying it's not realistic because that's not how it is nowadays. And I agree because it's hard to just have a one person income. It's tough.
Hey, Aldo's completely right on that one.
You guys are trying to create for yourself.
Going to Aldo's point, and just for me to say this, me personally, I don't believe that your father failed at all. It just for like unfortunate circumstances that actually led to that happening. Number one, and number two, just like you said before, like all these women with these trad wife contents, yeah, it's like pretty much like pornography, not like in the sexual sense, but just like the point that they're trying to actually get. Yeah, 100%, absolutely. Yeah, guys, like yes, I'll actually be one of the first to agree. Times have definitely changed. It's not like how it used to be. Like due to like a lot of economical factors, it does take two incomes to actually go ahead and keep a household going, raise the kids, etc. And one of the reasons why I'm here sitting down, like the reason why I'll probably actually just disagree, is because I do believe that yes, men should lead, and it's just super crazy how we just continue to go back and forth with this kind of thing, because yes, men naturally lead, women naturally follow. And I don't really understand like why we're just saying like, oh yeah, like, well, women can do X, Y, and Z. Yeah, like don't get me wrong, that's actually true. But the women that I've seen in these leadership roles, in these more,
I see where he's coming from. He's basically saying that generally and naturally, men do take the leadership role, and women do take the following type of role. And there are exceptions, of course. Like there are plenty of women that are, there's women that are buffer than me. There's women that are smarter than me. There are exceptions, but it doesn't make it the rule. And I see where he's coming from.
Dominant roles are super unhappy and resentful. You look at some of the marriages too, where women are actually leading their household. They actually get divorced most of the freaking time. You know what I mean? So it's just super crazy. They actually resent their husbands for actually not being the breadwinners. They are not built to be in the trenches for making the money, and on top of that, maintaining the household.
I'm actually familiar with. I kind of like that point too, because most women like to be taken care of. That's like the biggest thing, I think. And even like in bed, like the women don't like, usually she wants to get wrecked in bed. It kind of relates to that too. It's like a natural thing, like exactly what we're saying, like naturally.
The research in regards to women making more than men and then having a higher divorce rate. The reason for that was because, and you may have actually noted or hinted to it earlier, was because despite making more of the money, they were also had the burden of doing all the household chores and all of the sort of domestic labor. So that was more of a fault of the men not stepping up and fulfilling what many of you would consider the feminine role in the household and not doing some of the domestic labor. So yeah, that's all I wanted to respond to, but I don't think it's necessarily going to be the case that just because a woman is able to be successful in her role, be it like career-wise or economic-wise, that's necessarily going to break down the foundation of your relationship. I think if anything, you should aspire to want a woman who is driven, and maybe it could be driven in the sense of raising your household, but I think it's also perfectly normal and perfectly fine to want a woman who's extraordinarily driven and smart and intelligent and want to fulfill something outside of raising a family.
Can I think if she has that purpose, then 100%.
Like we're splitting hairs a lot here and using some fuzzy anecdotes that sound like science. And I think what gives me trouble with this statement, and I think maybe is what I'm hearing from a lot of my friends here, is it implies a fundamentally different set of skills and roles and responsibilities by gender, and that's and I think the point I want to make is it's totally cool for you to choose that worldview for your family, but there is no scientific basis that there is a predisposition among men to be better leaders than women or anything like that. That's so I think the issue is, it's a difference between what's right for you because you chose it and what's right for everybody because you think that's how everybody is.
So do you believe that men and women have natural biology, psychology, societally, even like natural dispositions where some may have strengths and weaknesses, and whereas the other one might have strengths and weaknesses that sort of complement each
Well,
other?
so no, yes and no. Yes, because everybody is a gender, but it's way more what's the word I'm looking for? Nuanced than that. It's not like all women are this way, all men are this way. Some women are better at leading. Some women are better at cooking. Some women would be better presidents than other women. Same thing is true for men. And that's not about gender. It's about difference.
This one's actually tough, and you brought up the tough part about this question from where I sit. The tough part is I'm also Catholic. The divorce thing is the issue. I believe that if the man is not fulfilling his role, then the woman should exit in a non-marriage. If this is a dating situation, because it described, the prompt said romantic situation. If this is a dating situation, the woman should absolutely exit, step out, and search for another man. If this is a marriage, that's where that's tricky. I still haven't formulated. I think it's very case dependent.
You know, when I first went up and had this conversation of like the men leading in a romantic relationship, I think a common misconception is that, you know, there's control involved, there's like leadership involved. You know, we can throw around all these terms, and I think that sometimes we tend to negate the female role in the relationship as something lesser or something that's supposed to be like you're less than because like you know, for all these different reasons. And I'm just like, as a Christian, you know, I'm coming at it with this background, but I could probably argue even without it. But there's one example in the Bible of, you know, if you go and read Proverbs 31, it talks about what a godly woman looks like, and she is industrious. Like she goes out and she buys a vineyard, you know, she takes care of the home. She does all of these things, but all the things that she does are for the good of the family. And so that's why I think a woman sometimes, like stepping up per se, I don't think looks like always means that she's in a leadership role, but rather she's going out and making, like if she needs to make extra income because that's what's gonna make the family succeed, I personally have no problem with that. I mean, I think that's a very, very biblical principle. I think I might disagree with you a little bit, but like if I worked in like construction or something and I had like my arm blown off and, you know, I really can't work anymore, I think it'd be virtuous for my wife then to step up, so to speak, and then you know maybe she does work, and then maybe there's some different changes there. But the whole premise behind what I say is like when a man leads, I'm not saying that a woman is less than. Like I think she has the ability and capability to do all of these like amazing things. So I don't think it's just this whole like dominance thing that we kind of tend to make it, if that kind of makes sense.
I was originally over there because of the implication that men are the natural leaders in the family unit. You know, I grew up Christian. I grew up Catholic. I went to Catholic school for up until about middle school, and then from there, my mom converted to Christianity, and we started going to evangelical Christian church. So I've been around that form for a long time, and I really have a struggle with the idea that the man is the leader, because for a large portion of my life, as a divorced child of divorce, my dad wasn't there. You know, my mom took that role. My dad, like I did visit him, I did see him on the weekends, but he was given the time that he was given, and I don't think he used the time given properly. And I've seen the women in my life take on more of that role of the, you know, of the leader of the household. Primarily my mom, she worked, she went to school, she took me to school.
It's a strong woman,
yeah.
Just saying.
Yeah, that part.
You know, she is the reason why I am the person I am today.
I have one quick follow-up. Do you wish your dad had, you know, stepped into more of a leadership role than he did?
Now I don't think so, because the reason why I say that is because the tools that he was given to be a father at the time were not the right ones. He wasn't a nice man. So I think after he had my brothers, he had a lot more time with my stepmom. He had a lot more time to think about what made a good man and like what made a good father. So I don't think I would trade kind of my experience, even though I did go through some shit, you know?
Thank you. Our final middle ground statement from part one. The question was, is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? And the middle ground statement was...
Elon Musk is not a good masculine role model.
You know, great. I love that it was really that easy.
Sounds
Elon
good.
Musk
That's
is not a good
an
role
easy
model.
one.
All right, let's fight about something else.
Yeah. Wait, what? There's a bunch of disagrees.
Come on, please. Oh my God, I'm pretty crowded over here. Someone want to call him a loser? I got no.
Okay, so Elon Musk has done a number of things, positive things. A lot of people wouldn't necessarily say that now, but he's landed the rocket. He's made an amazing car that's done amazing things. Now he's working.
Now I'm just wondering if this is before or after Trump as president, or any of that stuff. Because right now he's not looking so good.
With the president, a lot of people say that's like mixing oil with water. But then again, you have to give these people a chance. We don't know where Doge is going, and
it is.
we're not really exactly sure if it's going to help out or not. You have to be a judgment of the statement, whether or not this is going to happen. You have to give it a chance and understand. I'm not too sure if crypto is really up all in because of the Dogecoin. I don't know. It's all interesting.
Napoon, this is your statement. Why are you here?
So I switched because between the lunch break when I made that statement and now, I got a Venmo from Elon. No, no, it's because essentially, all jokes aside, he has shortcomings. But I want to see what he does in the future, because we are not measured by what we're doing in any one given moment. Like, people hated him when he did the PayPal, or like, I think like the version of MapQuest that he used to sell, or people hated him during the first part of Tesla, and now they hate him during Doge. Like, there's so much more to that potential story of fighting adversity. And now, whether is it fighting adversity because I think someone referenced, like, I think what you're talking about possibly as narcissistic tendencies, or is it because it's like narcissist, grifter, or someone who genuinely sees the way the wind is blowing and wants to see what is doing better and is like accepting his mistakes, whether they're a literal blown up rocket in his face or, some other thing that he did wrong in the past. So maybe there's a chance that he can show the masculine example of bettering himself.
But I think, as the person who agreed with you initially, I never said Elon Musk didn't have virtues. I think he does. Yeah, but I think my reason for not thinking he's a good role model is that he, among other things, consistently refuses to take full responsibility for the things he's done that aren't great. And so I think he may. You're right. It's not fair to judge anybody's lifetime midstream. That's not fair at all. But having said that, just because he's done some great things and he might do great things later, that doesn't erase his poor judgment when it comes to his family and other things he's done that aren't great that he hasn't taken responsibility for.
I was really shocked when the majority of people on my side said that they didn't like Elon Musk, and then kind of additionally on that side as well. It shocked me because when you take like American history, or you learn about the history of this country, you hear about Carnegie, Rockefeller, J.P. Morgan Chase, and the robber barons of the last century, and Elon Musk, Bezos, Zuckerberg. That is what is going on now. These people will be in the history books, and I think it's just so ironic that people can somehow justify to themselves that a man like Elon Musk, he's not even American, came over here, not only got the car industry. We have Ford, we have Chevy, Cadillac, GMC, etc. He was like, you know what? I'm going to make a car company. One, it's going to be American. Two, it's going to be electric. Like, I think on both ends, economically, we benefit from that. Even just like sustainability-wise, I don't think anybody's going to really argue with that all that much. Additionally, he's done a lot of things that he got a lot of flack for.
I kind of like his argument. I don't agree that Elon Musk is a good masculine role model, but what he's saying is someone that is not from the country came here, beat every other car company with an electric car, and did all this stuff and just like won, right? Like he basically won the American dream kind of by himself, even if he's not a good person. But that's the only reason I can't agree, because he's not a good masculine role model. But businessman or a smart guy that can make money, yeah, I'll give him that.
And his, his
this is about masculinity,
strong resolve,
so I'm sorry.
his virtue by purchasing Twitter. And even if you don't like Donald Trump or you don't like anybody else who got canceled with the whole like Twitter was not allowing the president of the United States to speak on their platform, he purchased it back because he believed that we have the right to have a voice, whether or not what you say is popular, whoever you are, if you're the president or you're just some guy off the street. And I think it's really ironic that people can't get behind that. But anyway, that's just me.
Okay, can I go?
Yeah.
So I don't care about what you said, but I think the word masculinity, which comes into play here, because again, being a very gay man myself, I'm masculine. I'm very, very masculine. I have a deep voice, probably more than all of y'all in here.
What'd you say? I didn't hear you.
I really exactly.
I actually don't know.
My voice is deeper than most of all y'all in here. So masculinity is the topic of this, not rockets and what he can do on X and Twitter. It's about masculinity. So if you all think, I know you know.
Quiet.
Because we don't want to start reading people. I think the masculinity is what needs to be focused here, not just like what he's done. It's like this man. I mean, he's obviously a bad father. He's obviously a bad man. Nobody that would want people to be harmed in any kind of way is a good role model. And you guys, specifically on this red thing, because it's like. Not all, because I'm sure some of you are lovely people, but this is like masculinity is like the epitome to everything. Masculinity isn't everything. Like, you guys sleep with women. You like women a lot. You talk about women a lot, but not true. You talk about women a lot, but you don't want, not true, because I know you respect women, but you don't want to like give them like a props. You don't want to give them like power, but you want to have sex with them. I don't understand. Like,
is this about Elon Musk still?
Masculinity is about masculinity. Everyone's talking about.
I have one
hypocrisy,
other
but
thing
not talking
to
about
say.
masculinity. Like,
I think
where's the masculinity part in this?
I just want to say
that's
that
what I'm saying.
One of the main reasons why I identify with Elon is because he is autistic. I am as well.
This is masculinity. This has nothing to do with masculinity.
Okay, let's let him finish
It's the fact. One of the things that he came up with. A lot of people have tested him. Disney came to him and he said, "Go fuck yourself." I know all this shit, but he has come up with the name woke mind virus.
And?
It is true. It is accurate. It is affecting this country. It is destroying what this country is supposed to be. What is originally supposed to be.
I want to go back to the masculine point of things here. I think I'm sorry, your mind escapes. Napoon, you're a religious man, right? Yes. So I would say just on the morality in your framework as a religious man, he has several different baby mamas, if we're just to call it, right? I feel like as a religious person, you can't look at that and kind of qualm that as something that you would teach your children, right? That's what we're talking about as a role model for children. We're going to look at, additionally too, on the idea of him creating these things, right? If we're looking at Tesla, for example, he didn't create Tesla, he bought Tesla, and he bought the idea of the Tesla. Same thing with PayPal. Same thing with SpaceX. I don't discredit him for the amount of drive and push the money amount that he pushed towards that, but he didn't create those ideas. He just funded them.
So I'm gonna let him rock in just a second, but I'm gonna give it to you right now. But what I wanted to say is that the reason why I'm over here is because we're talking about masculinity. Masculinity is leadership. He is definitely a leader, and he's a proven leader. He's a proven leader right now. You cannot tell there is nothing you can tell me that's saying that Elon Musk is not a leader. Another thing is we cannot say that everybody in here is perfect. Yes. So even you, as a man, to your own kids, you're not perfect. So if you want your kids to look at you and say, "Oh, well, you have some imperfections, so you know what? You're not a role model." So what I'm saying is he has imperfections. He's a man. He's imperfect. God made us imperfect. So for us to dwell specifically on his imperfections and not say, "You know what? I can take some things from this man."
That's not an excuse to... It's just not an excuse. It's like you can't... same thing with the depression argument. You can't use it as a crutch. You can't be like, "Oh, I'm depressed, so I'm not going to work. I'm depressed, so I'm not going to take care of my family." You can't... It's not an excuse.
And use it as to be a great role model. He's a great leader. You know what? I'm gonna look into Elon Musk. If he wrote a book on leadership, I would read this book.
My problem with most of what's going on today is that people are inserting their opinions as if it's facts. Because you think he's a good leader does not make it so. Just because you say it doesn't make it so. You don't understand that doesn't make it. Just because you can speak loudly and say, "Well, put your feet on the ground and plant them," doesn't make it so. Like, it's just your opinion. We all have opinions here.
Perception is fact.
It's your perception is your facts. how you feel. That's never mind. Let me not do that.
So-
But yeah, sorry. But it's how you feel, right? And you're allowed to feel that way. I don't feel that way.
So I agree with what Mr. 1950 said. However, I will kind of pull it back to the other argument. I believe, coming from my point of view, that the threshold for a masculine role model, a strong role model, not one that maybe, for your kids to look up to, a good dad, a universal role model that society should look up to, that males should look up to. I believe that threshold is so high that I would argue that the only person who would meet that threshold, from my eyes, would be someone like Jesus Christ. So I would argue that Elon, unfortunately, there's nothing substantive there for me to say, wow, this is strong. This is someone of great sacrifice, of great character, of great strength. Yes, he has many accomplishments, but that great moral fiber, he doesn't radiate some great ideas of how to govern your life. He's actually, when I hear him speak, I've only heard him speak a few times, but it's pretty simplistic.
So I was torn to go up there. At first, I was going to go up there because I was like, yeah, maybe he isn't a great role model. But then I thought about all of his advancements, and we're just going to completely disregard that. And then you bring up the fact that the threshold, right? Well, there's a lot of different character traits that make up a masculine man, right? We think about virtue, we think about honor, dignity, all these different things, right? So my question to that is, then who defines what the threshold is? Because not everyone is perfect. Everyone makes a lot of mistakes. I have people within my family who are men who I view them as role models, not in every category, but there are some things, for example, with my dad, he's very hardworking and I do view him as a role model. We might not be the closest, but he has had a great impact on my life that I apply to other areas. Now, there are certain things I highly, strongly disagree with him on. But does that make him a bad role model? Not so much.
I mean, I think we're getting away from the prompt. The prompt is not if he's a good role model. It's if he's a good masculine role model. And trust me, like as an entrepreneur myself, as a business owner myself, like I'm pretty sure I have an Elon quote somewhere in my house or something like that. I love Elon, but I think the question today, at least for the prompt, is Elon Musk a good masculine role model? And I think as traditional men, I think something that we value a lot is family life. And I think that's and I don't think that's just something we argue for. I think that's something that is foundational to what it means to be a traditional man. And I'm not convinced that just based off of, the sleeping around, whatever, all these different types of things, like we can, you can eat the fish and spit out the bones with Elon. Like he's this great guy. But when it comes to traditional masculinity, I'm just not convinced that he embodies that family thing that I think we all hold pretty dearly.
All right, so we've gone through all of the middle ground statements from part 1. I now want to give all of the men in this room the opportunity to change the label of the group that you're in. So if you no longer fully identify as a progressive man or as a traditional man, and you see yourself more as a moderate, if that feels like a better representation of how you would categorize yourself, I want to give you the opportunity to move to the middle.
All right, I do see. Oh, actually,
once a dirty lib, always a dirty lib, man. I grew up as one. I've been liberal my whole life. I've just become more traditional in mostly romantic relationships, as I said, how women like to be treated and protecting, providing, as well as fiscally conservative. As I get more and more money, I'm less about taxes and shit. But on terms of social issues, which seem to be the main dividing factor, I think a lot of social issues can be solved by just minding your own business and not really caring what these other people do. To an extent, I know that there is getting it in people's faces, which I'm against. I think my traditional men knew what stance I had with the LGBTQI transformers, then they would disown me because it's their business, and so I really don't mind that. Or other, my body, my choice, all that shit. I'm all for that. So, and also, they were very religious, which I'm a little, but not the most.
This guy's funny.
They're talking all this shit, bro. They're like, oh, save yourself from marriage, all this shit, bro. Man, I'm not.
Okay, thanks to Rob for starting us off.
I wanted to speak to
the most lenient dude.
What is it? Trad guys. when we say that we want to take down things like the patriarchy or like misogyny versus misandry, I believe that, yeah, misandry is just as bad as misogyny. I do believe that there are things that we should address that affect men specifically. So I still think I am progressive, but I don't want to feel like we're leaving men out of this progressive movement. So that's why I wanted to take that opportunity.
We share similar values, like over on this side. I also share similar values with y'all as well. One thing that I realized is that not too many people, well, when we were doing the one-on-one, different, right? But when it came to my overall views on stuff, I didn't see too many people disagreeing with me. And it's because, like, I'm Muslim, I have a very unique view on a lot of the things. Like, I'm pro, like, if you gay, you want to do what you do. Hey, it is what it is. That's between you and God. And if you don't believe in him, all right, then I guess if one day all of us die, if I'm right, I get to laugh about it. And if you're right, then, I mean, it is what it is, right? So, I mean, so my views are just different. So, like, a lot of the guys over here, like they were saying, Christ is the only way. Okay, cool. You know, respect to that. If that's what y'all genuinely believe, hey, alhamdulillah, that just means all praise is due to God. Y'all rock exactly how y'all gotta rock. But me as a Muslim, I don't necessarily just co-sign that.
I'll keep it short. I think the thing that makes me more purple, so I have traditional beliefs, I have blue beliefs as well, is because I identify in the LGBTQ community. I don't view, I don't view traditional relationships between a male and a woman the same because I don't transcribe to that. It looks very different for me, so that's why I'm pretty much over here. But I love y'all both.
Yeah, for me, like, I kind of always been moderate. Like, I'm just the type of guy, like, I go what's in my best interest.
This is his first time he's talking, and he's just, Jenny.
I go what makes sense to me and what's going to make me progress in this society that's ever so changing. Like, every 5 years, like, the environment always changes. So it's very important for me to adapt. But each and every single one of you have some good points. Mm-hmm. That is my whole view of it all.
Thank you. All right, I want to give you guys the opportunity to ask these guys questions.
Sure, yeah, I have a question specifically. I forgot your name. What's your name?
I'm afraid of you.
I got you. Mike. Well, you know, I loved hearing your story, Mike, and things like that. I guess my question would only be for you. You said a lot of things that resonate with me. You know, caring about men, wanting the best for men. You know, caring about, you know, ideally a society in which we don't crucify people who make, you know, mistakes or, you know, give them their best hearing in terms of the Me Too stuff. And I think just for me, I guess, does any of that really take you away from the progressive movement? Like, I guess, you know, I'm someone who would identify as a progressive, but, you know, I'd say I'm 70-30. There are many parts of the progressive movement, like, that are just so annoying and result in us basically losing anytime it comes to coalition building. So I think in that sense, you know, is it possible for you to still consider yourself a progressive, but maybe, you know, as you're talking about, like, caring about men's issues? I think caring about men's issues is an inherently progressive issue that we should work for on those grounds.
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad I'm still in blue for that because, like, I do believe that, like, for example, the rates of high school dropouts for boys are higher than for girls. Mental health, suicide rates higher for men, right? Yeah. And I feel like as we talk about mental health and so forth, we have to make it feel like men are included in that. And so I'm still progressive, but I just want to make it feel like, oh, progressives don't care about that, I think. So,
and I would just like to clarify that we do care about that, very much so. So just I want to let that be the case.
Yeah, I have a question for the pearl necklace. What's your name?
Gibberish on all platforms, JBBRSH.
Some of the things that you listed when you were talking about the things that you liked about the traditional side, you know, the provider, protector type things. Do you have any other examples of what you do like still from the traditional side, or is it just that?
Yeah, it's pretty much romantic relationships and fiscally, bro. I mean, socially, I think there just needs to be like, maybe, because there's a weird dichotomy of like, oh, don't take my guns and don't control me, but also control this other shit that's going crazy. And I think to an extent, the reason I was wary to identify with the libs is because on the far left is just as bad as far right, bro. It's equally closed-minded. On the left side, they're saying all this shit like, you can't do this shit and I should be able to be trans and whack it in your face. But like on the other side, it's like we aren't teaching like crazy Bible shit and oppressing our kids with it. Like I'm saying both extreme sides should not be like imposed on people.
So sorry, brother. I was forgetting your name. Michael, I was like, oh, yeah. So my question to you is, you know, words have meaning. And so when I think of traditional, when I think of conservative, I do believe it's kind of an oxymoron to be socially liberal. I believe that if you're traditional, especially, you kind of do have to ascribe to that. What did you, in going through the process of signing up as a traditional, what was going through your mind when you're like, yes, I'm very socially liberal, but I want to identify as conservative or traditional? Because just because like this is an ongoing conversation in the conservative circles of what does that actually mean. And so to me, going traditional is actually even a step up from conservative. And if you want tradition, it's like you have to have the ability to be able to pass it down. And so like in your case, obviously you wouldn't be able to unless you, of course, adopt it or something. So I just kind of want to see your thought process as why did you choose to subscribe to traditional versus progressive?
I'm going to keep this as short as I can. Yes, that's a really good question. The reason why I prescribe more to traditional is because, like you said, things have been passed down, whether it's from society or your family norms. Being a gay man, I really believe in monogamy. I believe in finding your person and like building a relationship that's loving around that. And unfortunately, that hasn't been my experience with a lot of gay men. A lot of gay men believe in polyamory. When we look at the numbers from Gallup, according to 2021, 711,000 people got married that year. 98% of it was heterosexual relationships. About 1.2% of it was male-to-male relationships. So the idea of finding your person and wanting love and true romance has been hard to find, that I believe, because I'm still hopeless out there. In 2015, it became actually legal for all 50 states to get married as a gay man. That's very, very recent. And then in 2020, it became legal for you to actually be out in the office and not get fired for it. So when I look at the ideas that my mom and dad instilled within me wanting to find my spouse, it's very traditional. A lot of gay men, unfortunately, I say unfortunately because I think it's hurt our numbers, and it's why there's so much confusion when it comes to the apps and why people are frustrated because everyone, there's so many people sleeping around with each other and it's just not a traditional view.
I like
it's
that
really
viewpoint.
good to see how other men from all walks of life, different viewpoints, like talk to each other.
I came into this as a traditional because growing up in a very conservative neighborhood, I was always I identified with those ideals, and I still identify with those ideals. But in 2025, as I'm growing into my own, I see that to be defined as a traditional man kind of presupposes to be defined as a traditional Christian man, and that's not something I am, and I'm not going to be something fake just to fit in. So I think I want to start identifying as a moderate to basically create a space for people who have these traditional values in romance, in politics, but don't necessarily get their guidance from one specific book of scripture.
I came in as progressive, but I changed because there's a lot of inherent values that a lot of people on the conservative end have. The values of just simply kind of sticking to your guns, even if you're not sure, I guess, leading your household, whether or not you're sure of yourself or the environment. I'm going to need those as well when I have children and a family.
Thank you guys for watching this episode. Let us know if you're a moderate, progressive, conservative in the comments. Remember, these are all human beings. When you leave a comment, if you leave a hate comment, you are part of the problem. You are not doing any good. Welcome you guys into the center to shake hands and mingle for a bit.
Really, really good 2 episodes of meeting a middle ground. I'm definitely more of a moderate. I think I'm more progressive because I agree with a lot of the traditional stuff too, and I see it. Because the reality is something, the transition is still happening, and the meeting in the middle is still happening.
Welcome to See